Our G Fuel code Incon is 30% off until the 26th of October, so make sure you fill up now using that link down in the description. Hello everybody, we are coming at you with a Sun Wukong guide. Gonna be playing Sun Wukong over in the solo lane. Sun Wukong is pretty fun right now because you can actually play him quite aggressive, and as such we are not going to be getting a Warrior's Blessing. I am actually going to be getting a Mage's Blessing in honor of his extra aggression, and then we're going to be getting a little bit more around the staples. I'm actually going to go this game tier 1 boots and my Mage's Blessing, so I can actually get 4 health potions, 2 multi-pots, and I'm going to go very, very aggressive in this lane, and then I am not going to grab a relic. My intention is to get teleport, but as always, you can simply grab teleport on your first back. You don't necessarily need to buy it because then it gives you the options to buy other relics. Wukong has 4 abilities that all do damage, which makes our Mage's Blessing extremely efficient, and it is going to let us bully people out of lanes. We are in the solo lane, so it will end up being fairly hybrid with tankiness, but because of items like the new Glad Shield, we can really, really abuse what base damage we have to get a bunch. So we're going to start off with our 1. This is our Cudgel. Cudgel is going to be our main lane clearing ability. It is a really long based line where, as expected, you throw down your Cudgel. That Cudgel does damage to any god, any minion, anything caught inside of it, and it does an extra 30% damage to jungle, camps, and minions, making it a ridiculously good lane clear ability. Even already at level 1, it is going to do a bunch of damage to the wave. At level 2, we are going to grab our 3. This is our getaway ability, as well as our initiation tool. It's got everything we could want. This is actually a 3-pronged ability, and it is going to do different things depending on where you're actually clicking the ability, which is cool. So I just used my Tiger Sun. That is the middle form on this ability. There's 3 different forms. There's the close range of this, where you use it closest to your character. That is going to be Ox form. In Ox form, you are going to turn into an Ox, and you are going to knock everybody up in your path. So this will knock everybody up that I run into. In the middle form, you will turn into a Tiger. That Tiger form will stop on the first creature hit. It'll do a bunch of damage and do a long duration stun. And the very longest form will be your bird at the very, very end. It'll give you a bunch of movement speed. It doesn't do any damage, but it will help you run away from any potential dangers. So it is going to give you immunity to slows and roots. You should note that in your Ox form, you are also immune to slows and roots while you are in that as well. So just keep that in mind. Your Tiger form, not so lucky, but your Tiger form also does the most damage out of all of these. At level 2, I grab, at level 3, I grab my 2. This is a circle-based ability around us. It is going to do damage to anybody within that circle around us, and it is also a slow. This is going to be a movement and attack speed slow that lasts for 2 seconds, 25% on the attack speed slow, and 30% on the movement speed slow. So when I'm up here in the lane, I'm just using my 1, I'm using my 2. I'm trying to get poke off where I can, so like if Achilles is gonna run into the abilities, works good for me, doesn't bother me in the slightest. I'll hit him with everything. Gonna back up, get ourselves a Warrior Tabby, and we're gonna get our teleport now. You can see why we didn't need to buy teleport at the very start, and just a little bit of an extra health potion to keep my sustain going in the lane, because I didn't opt to go something like a Chalice. If you're gonna go Chalice, that is totally fine, but keep in mind you cannot pop Chalice and health potions at the same time. Those you have to proc separately. They do not stack anymore like they used to back in the day. So just keep that in mind so you don't accidentally waste some health potions.
Fully armed and operational.
So the ability that we're going to level up first here is our cudgel, because we are going to get the most lane clear out of it. That's going to give us a lot of opportunities to walk around the map, make sure we're winning the totem. Make sure you grab that totem for your team when you can. That totem is going to give extra gold out to your team, and it is also going to give MP5 out to anybody within those tower ranges. That MP5 is very, very important for your mid laner in the early stages of the game. Very important. So do yourself a favor. How about your team? Try to get that totem as much as you can. So when I'm in this lane against this Achilles, you're going to see that I'm trying to use my abilities pretty aggressively, getting some auto attacks in between them as well, and then I'll be able to secure myself a kill. So when I'm going to try to clear the wave, sometimes I'm not even doing the entire wave with my cudgel. I'll walk up to the melee creeps and I'll just poke the Achilles with it. When I'm using the 2 in the wave, I'm trying to make sure both the archers and the enemy god, which in this case is Achilles, inside that range, utilizing the fact that all of Wukong's abilities are AoE. So I've got a big fat cudgel, I've got the circle around me, I can use my ox form in order to knock up minions and him at the same time. I've got all of these capabilities in the lane to really be poking out my enemy and doing damage at the same time. This is going to work even better when you have something like a Mage's Blessing, which really, really lets you play overly aggressive. Now back into our abilities, we've got our ultimate. Our ultimate just actually got nerfed, just in terms of its scaling. So don't be too afraid. That's okay. But they reduced from 120% scaling on this ability to 100%. So it is still a fantastic ability. So please don't be afraid to play Wukong, even though they nerfed a little bit of his ultimate damage. That is not certainly its entire purpose in life. It is going to take just a moment to cast. We'll go use it over here on these creeps for you guys. It'll take just a moment to cast. You'll be CC immune while you're channeling it. After just a moment, you will go into the air, leaving a decoy on the ground that will continue to fight people, bringing you into the air. If your decoy is alive, you will be invisible in the air. They won't be able to see you. This is relevant because they can see which direction you are looking and thinking about landing. If your decoy dies, they can see you in the air. While you are in the air, you will be healing up. That is right. You will be getting a bunch of HP while you are in the air, regenerating 5% health per second. And when you come and you land back down, you're going to do a bunch of damage in the area that you choose to land. This is technically a leap, which means it can go over walls if you ulti up close to them. And that pet, by the way, inherits all of your health and protections and does 50% of your basic attack power. That Wukong decoy, though, does die immediately if hit by a hard CC. So if he gets hit by a Ymir freeze, anything like that, he will simply die. Like a root won't kill him, but a mez will, a stun will, a knockup. All of those things will just immediately kill
Ultimate is ready.
your decoy. Not really a big deal for you. You're using this a lot of the times for 2 different reasons. One, you are about to die, right? You're like, oh no, I'm about to die. So you're trying to get in the air, stay safe. The other reason you use it is for initiation, where you want to start to generate some chaos. So you walk right up to the enemy team. Maybe you use your cudgel, you get off a little bit of damage, and then you switch off to your ultimate. So that way there's a decoy, and then you make them all panic. Now they're worried about you coming down, but you can stay in that ulti for a hot minute. I'm afraid that I'm going to get Ymir frozen, so I'm just going to go up in my air, and I'm going to sit at the top. You can see how much HP that I am regenerating, and then I'm going to let it bring me all the way down. Of course, if I left click, I will come out of that earlier. I won't get the maximum regen because I'll be leaving my safety cloud, but I will be able to proc the damage earlier if I so desire. Just left click myself right on out of it and bring the slam jam. Finally, with our passive, while Sun Wukong is below 50% health, we gain power and protections, plus additional power and protections for our current level. if we go back above 50% health, we still do maintain this buff for 12 seconds, which is quite nice. So we can get a lot of bonus power and protections out of this if we are low HP. Because of the fact that we get all of this action while we are low HP, we are going to spec our build into a bruiser build that really lets us stick around and be comfortable even when we are low in HP. So we grab the Mage's Blessing early for the lane clear and the poke with all of our abilities. Keep in mind all 4 abilities do damage, which means all 4 abilities can proc Mage's Blessing. We got our Warrior Tabi because we are a ability-based warrior. That's where our damage is going to come from. So we want to make sure we're getting as much power as we can. Right into Sledge, because Sledge is simply one of the best warrior items, if not the best warrior item in the game. Bunch of HP, bunch of power, mana, crowd control reduction, and of course physical and magical protections when we have enemies surrounding us. Now I'm going to be getting an item a little bit early. I don't always get this item so early, but I'm feeling pretty good over here in the solo lane right now. And we're going to be going into a Gladiator Shield. Always buy Gladiator Shield on Wukong. You just might not necessarily buy it this early on Wukong. I usually lean into it about a 4th item. This game I'm getting it as a 3rd item. Gladiator Shield has been recently changed for those that have maybe played solo lane in a bit. Haven't been buying this item. It used to be a super duper regen item, so you'd see it on gods like Arthur when he would spin to win, and then he would spam 80,000 abilities, he'd be at full health again. That is no longer what Gladiator Shield does. Instead, now what it does is it gives you a bunch of damage. When damaging an enemy below 60% health with an ability, you deal 15 plus 25% of your protections from items. Can only trigger once per enemy per ability. That means that we can stack this damage that we're going to be getting from our Gladiator Shield with that bonus damage from our Mage's Blessing, and we are going to be hitting enemies really, really hard that happen to be below about that halfway marker. Relics tries to come over and gank me. No problemo. I use my bull form, which is my closest to me, my ox form. I knock them both up as I just continue to run away. Keep in mind that I'm also immune to knockups while I'm in that form. I'm immune to slows and roots while in that form, so it is hard for them to catch up to me. Now, for our ability order, we are grabbing our ultimate every single time that we can when we put points into our... Ooh, actually, you know what? I'm actually going to get a beads this game. Normally, I would get a Thorns here on a solo laner. I think Thorns is extremely effective as a solo lane, especially people that are going to be holding down the W into the back line like I plan to on this Wukong. But they've got a ton of CC, Hades, Ymir, Achilles, and a Relics, not to mention even the Izanami Silence. And because I'm going a little bit more damage oriented, I'm going to grab the beads, a little bit more selfish of an active than the Thorns here. So when we rank up our ultimate, the reason why we're grabbing this is because it lowers the cooldown. Lowering your cooldown on your ultimate on anybody is just incredibly important in Smite. Wukong, of course, being no exception to that rule. Gonna throw out a little sentry ward by this blue buff, just so I can have a better idea of if the Relics is coming to me. After our ultimate, of course, we rank up our 1 to max. That is because this is our in-lane clear, and it's gonna let us full clear these waves and look for potential rotations. Now, after the 1, this is where I tend to spec a little bit different than maybe other players. I always level the 3 before my 2. The 3 does a lot of damage, particularly if you are using the tiger form on it. And so I like to level the 3 before the 2. All the 2 does is gives you damage, which is basically what the 3 gives you as well. Is it's going to give you damage, but it's also going to reduce the cooldown of this ability. And it's going to do so much single target damage with your potential tiger form. So I go 4, 1, 3, 2. Some people rank up the 2 first because they like the AoE damage just for being all up in the fray. But for me, it's always 4, 1, 3, 2 right now for that solo lane Wukong. When you're over in the solo lane, make sure you're always taking a gander at the enemy's buffs as much as you can. While this isn't going to necessarily put your solo laner behind, it is going to help put their jungler behind, and Lord knows how strong junglers are in the meta right now. So you really want to do anything that you can to help put those junglers behind. So go steal those little camps as much as you can. Going all the way to the speed buff can be a little bit risky, so you don't have to go all the way there, but just doing maybe the enemy's blue during their little Harpy camp right there can actually put a lot of pressure on the enemy jungler, takes away a lot of XP. I'm gonna wait for Achilles to start this blue buff. I'm already down at half HP, so I gotta be a little careful. I'm gonna wait for him to get it a little bit lower. I'm gonna start coming in now. Gonna go for the knockup. Unfortunately, I actually just barely didn't hit him with the knockup before he got the stun off, so we're not gonna be able to steal that blue. I see people coming over to me. There's no Relics, there's maybe a Hades. Gonna use my bird form, that max distance on Wukong, get myself safely into a tower, and I can back it right back up. Now, I'm gonna go into an item that I think is beautiful right now in combination with Gladiator Shield, and that is going to be Pridvin. So with this build right now, we have our Mage's Blessing, which gives us a little bit of damage on our abilities, right? We've got our Gladiator Shield, which is going to give us some damage based on our abilities when the target is below a threshold, and it's going to give us that damage based off our protections. So Sledge, of course, gives us up to 60 protections, depending on if we're around 3 people or not. Our Gladiator Shield gives us physical protections, and I'm against a physical solo laner, which is fantastic. So we get the protections for in the lane. And now I'm going to go into Pridvin. Pridvin is going to give me 20% CDR on top of the 10% CDR that I get from Gladiator Shield and my 10% from Mage's Blessing. So I'll have full 40% CDR. Pridvin also is going to be giving me that damage around my character based off of our based off of its initial health. It gets that health equal to our protections. So basically we have 2 items now that are going to be stacking off of protections, thus encouraging us to buy more protections, but also giving us the full CDR so we can spam our abilities, getting the damage from all of these things faster, getting the shield from our ulti faster. They just have so much synergy as 2 items together. Now, like I said, you don't have to get these as your 3rd, 4th items. This is a little bit aggressive from me. Other wonderful items still exist, like Void Shield, like Stone of Gaia, Mantle of Discord, whatever. So I don't necessarily mind you going some other items, getting these a little bit later. But for me, they're usually around that 3rd, 4th, 5th slot is usually where I'm picking these up. So I'm gonna back up, get my full Pridvin. It's gonna give me another 60 protections. Grab me a Sentry Ward, start running back towards my lane. Now I've got capped CDR. I've got a nice bit of HP because Sledge and Gladiator Shield are both going to give us HP. We've got a solid bit of protections as well. Already 136 on our physical here at the 16-minute marker, while also having a bunch of damage online. Wukong right now is a popular solo laner. He's also decently popular in the jungle because same concept with all these abilities. You can get something like a Crusher and you start doing a lot of damage in the early game. So he also does pop up in the jungle and the support role, but by far his most popular role right now is the solo lane.
Be careful left.
When we're playing Wukong on the solo lane, we don't have any matchups that are particularly heinous for us. There is nothing that we are super worried about. We have a really good lane clear, meaning that there's nobody that's really going to put us extraordinarily in harm's way. Obviously, there's still going to be just generically good solo laners. Achilles is a generically good solo laner right now. Cthulhu, of course, is fantastic. All these other solo laners that you are standardly seeing, they will still exist and they will still be relevant in that solo lane. So just keep your eyes on the normal, regular solo lane suspects. Where Wukong is going to thrive, though, is Wukong thrives in that early laning phase. This is actually a really risky fire giant. He thrives in that early laning phase because of all the lane clear, all the poke that he gives out. And then he really starts to thrive again once you get into the team fight. Wukong, one of the more annoying warriors, as somebody who plays a mage and hunters very often, having to deal with a Wukong as a backliner sucks. So your job as Wukong, of course, is to be diving onto their backline, whether that is their mage or their hunter, preferably either whoever you're building more protections against. So in this case, I'm building more physical protections because I was against the Achilles in the solo lane, so I needed the physical protections. So preferably I would be diving their hunter or just whoever ends up being the most problematic on the enemy team. You hold down the W key on them to make sure that your team isn't getting damaged by their top damage dealers.
Attack the middle lane.
The reason why Wukong is so annoying at that is because you've got an attack speed slow on your 2, which is clearly annoying for hunters who rely on attack speed. You've got a potential stun and or knockup on your 3. And then, even if they do end up getting you low, you just go in your ultimate and then you can sit in your cloud for 5 seconds, not taking any damage, potentially healing up a lot of HP. Because you heal 5 per second, you can potentially heal up 25% of your health if they didn't have any anti-heal. And so it's just very, and then you land back down on them, you do a bunch of damage. It's a whole disaster. Because you sat up in the air for those 5 seconds, there's a great chance that you have your cooldowns back up. So now you got all of your abilities back up. That whole thing is a disaster. Nobody wants to deal with any of that. So now that we want to be getting more protections, because obviously our build is reliant around doing more damage, doing more health, doing more shields around protections, I'm going to be grabbing myself a void shield. Once again, building into that physical defense. I'm not concerned about their magic damage at all. They've got an Izanami, a Relics Achilles. And then they've got a Hades middle and a Ymir support. Ymir support, not concerned about his damage. Hades mid can output some decent damage, but I am almost guaranteed not going to be his target. So because I'm going to be in the backline with the Izanami, hopefully the jungler as well, I am building into more physical defenses. And those physical defenses, of course, gonna help me with my Glad Shield doing more damage, gonna help me with my Pridvin giving me more shield after I land down from my ulti, which of course will give me another slow when I land down from my ult. So annoying to deal with Wukong. I'm gonna use my Ox form just to kind of dive into this backline. I'm just gonna try to zone out as many people as I can. Keep their Relics, keep their Izanami back here in the base. Even if I'm not doing damage, that is still a win. We should just walk right over to the right lane. Honestly, we've got oracles. We got the Oni creeps, excuse me, coming right on up. No reason to dive into that Titan room with 3 of them alive. So we come over here, we grab ourselves another Phoenix, see if they put themselves out of position. If they're not going to put themselves out of position, that is totally fine. We head right back over to the left lane. For our standard combos on Achilles, we're going to be using our 3 to initiate in these fights almost every single time. In team fights, it's usually going to be an Ox form because you can get this knockup onto so many people. So I can knock up this Achilles and I can go into the back line and I can just look for a bunch more people. When you're by yourself, you're going to be using that Tiger form. So now I'm down to a half HP. I'm going to go in the air. I'm just going to sit here. Land right down on the Izanami who got plucked. Bada bing, bada boom. So you can see that I'm just putting myself between their damage dealers and my damage dealers. And even if I'm not necessarily full-fledged doing damage to them, I am so hard for them to deal with because I'm so tanky. And because I actually do so much damage, they can't get in range of me to try to run past me. Because if they try to run past me, then I'm going to be able to absolutely light them up. So they're kind of stuck in this forever position of looking at me and I'm looking at them. But if my team is fighting their front line and their team isn't fighting me, our front line, that is always a win because then eventually we're going to get them dead and then we're going to have like another 5v3 or something. So back into the standard combo, you use the 3, probably the Ox form in your team fight. You're going to knock them all up, land an auto or so before they come down. Then you're going to follow up right with your 2. That 2 is going to slow everybody, movement and attack speed. And then if they try to run away, somebody like an Izanami, you follow up on her cudgel right after she dashes. You'll get her right out of stealth. Bada bing, bada boom. And then you have your ulti for whenever you need it in order to keep you safe. Now, to finish up that build, obviously, we would have been selling our Mage's Blessing because you don't keep your blessings into the very end of the game. I almost guaranteed would have sold this for something in the magical defense tree. So maybe not. Actually, this game a little bit. Maybe it ends up being a Pestilence because I needed some anti-heal for the team. They have got a Hades, which has a lot of built-in healing. Achilles has some built-in sustain as his kit. Izanami had a Devo Gloves and an Aussie. So I grab a Pestilence. That gives 80 magical defenses. Once again, factoring back in to our Gladiator Shield and our Pridvin. And it finally gives me a bunch of magical defense, which I kind of been avoiding at this point as the Hades got in to the late game, level 20s, started getting his build more and more online. You could see he was also going a bunch of lifesteal as well. Then we sell our boots at the very end of the game with this build. I love Mantle of Discord. Mantle of Discord gives 60 of each protections, meaning that's 120 factoring into your Gladiator Shield and factoring into your Pridvin. With your red pot, if you have the red pot, the Gladiator Shield, the Discord, and the Pridvin, you're going to be overcapped by 10% on the cooldown. Don't worry about it. They're going to be a lot more worried about the fact that they've got a giant damaging Wukong running at them that they can't do any damage to, and that keeps doing all of their HP. So be a lot more concerned about that. And that, guys, is our Sun Wukong guide.